Let's go Dolphins! Something's not adding up in Miami, and no one in the front office seems willing to face it. On paper, the Dolphins roster was built to dominate. But here we are, 4 weeks later, and the defense looks completely broken. The stats are embarrassing. The effort? Questionable. Here's the thing. There are changes happening behind the scenes. Quiet changes. The kind that suggest the coaching staff may finally be waking up to the mess they've gotten themselves into. I have the inside scoop on all of this, snap counts that don't make sense, rookies who seem overwhelmed, and veterans getting a free pass. Before I give you all the details, be sure to like this if you love the Dolphins but are tired of settling for mediocrity. And if you've been following this team through thick and thin, I want to hear from you in the comments. Type, "Go Dolphins!" We're going to get through this. Okay, time to dive into the chaos. What we're seeing on the defensive side of the ball is borderline catastrophic. Bottom 5 in points allowed per game. Bottom 5 in yards allowed per game. Second worst in EPA per play. Second worst in EPA per pass. And here's the dagger. Opponents are converting over 51% of their third downs against this Dolphins defense. That makes them the second worst third down defense in the entire NFL. That's not just bad, it's a liability. What makes it even more frustrating is the lack of pressure. This was supposed to be one of the strengths of the team. The front seven was expected to dominate, yet somehow they ranked 25th in pressure rate. So what's going on? Why is this defense failing so badly? Anthony Weaver, the defensive coordinator, knows something has to give. He even acknowledged it publicly, and you can feel his frustration when he talks about it. His quote before the Monday night game against the Jets went viral. At some point, it comes down to changing the math through violence. I need you to do more than your job. I need you to whip that guy's ass in front of you. That's the kind of fire we want to hear. But talk is cheap without results. Against the Jets, the defense did manage to force 3 turnovers, which was a step in the right direction. But let's not pretend that came against a top-tier offense. That Jets offense is one of the worst in the league, and even then, the Dolphins gave up a ton of yards. The run defense in particular has been atrocious. They rank 30th in rushing yards allowed per game, 29th in yards per carry, 28th in EPA per rush, and 31st in yards before contact per attempt. That last stat is crucial. It means running backs are consistently getting 2 to 3 yards downfield before even being touched by a defender. That is flat out embarrassing. And guess what? The rookie Kenneth Grant, who was drafted 13th overall to be a difference maker on that line, has been invisible. His PFF grade? A dismal 35.7. That puts him among the bottom 5 defensive linemen in the entire league. When you spend a first-round pick on a player, especially one projected to be an early contributor, that's a gut punch. Sure, it's early. Sure, rookies need time. But Grant has the second most snaps of any Dolphins D lineman and has barely made an impact. It's not just about patience, it's about accountability. This isn't Pop Warner football. This is the NFL. If you're not producing, you're hurting the team. Anthony Weaver even admitted that it's not just about effort, it's a technique and fundamentals issue. He sees the potential, but potential doesn't win football games. Production does. And right now, Grant isn't producing. If he keeps getting manhandled every Sunday, not only are we risking more losses, but we might also be damaging his confidence long term. That's a dangerous gamble. So what's the answer? Enter Matthew Butler. He's played limited snaps, only 75 so far, but in those reps, he's shown something that Grant hasn't: consistency. Butler was the highest graded Dolphins defender in Week 2 against the Patriots. He may not be flashy, but he's effective, especially in the run game. I'm not saying bench Kenneth Grant completely, but we need to rethink this rotation. If giving Butler 10 to 15% more of those snaps helps plug up those gaping holes in the run defense, then it's a no-brainer. The numbers don't lie, and the eye test doesn't either. Grant is struggling. Butler deserves more time. Let's also talk about the edge rotation because, once again, it's a head-scratcher. Chop Robinson, last year's first-round pick, has barely seen the field. He played just 22 snaps against the Jets, even after having a week and a half to rest following a minor knee injury. Meanwhile, Bradley Chubb is getting nearly 60 more snaps than Chop. That makes no sense. You can't convince me that a guy with the pass-rushing upside of Chop Robinson should be getting that few reps, especially when Chubb hasn't been dominant either. If we're building for a Super Bowl, we need to be smart with our reps. Let the young guy play. Even Anthony Weaver had to answer for it. He claimed the limited snaps are partly due to new coaches adjusting to their rotation patterns. Okay, fine, but it's week 4. That excuse won't fly much longer. Chop is too talented to be sitting on the bench. We need to even out those snap counts, give this guy a chance to disrupt plays and make life hard for opposing quarterbacks. And just before we wrap, one quick offensive note that might have flown under the radar: Cole Strange started at right guard against the Jets and he might stick there for at least another week. Now, Don't get me wrong, he's not perfect, especially in pass protection, but compared to Kean Smith and Daniel Brunskill, who got absolutely destroyed in weeks 2 and 3, Strange was a breath of fresh air in the run game. The offensive line looked better with him in it. Still, we're all hoping that James Daniels returns soon. He's eligible to come off IR next week, and if he's healthy, that's a massive upgrade. Because here's where things get even more complicated, and a little concerning if you're a Dolphins fan who actually watches the trenches week in and week out. We're not just talking about tweaks to the rotation anymore. This is about an entire identity crisis on the defensive front. The Miami Dolphins were built, on paper, to dominate up front. Yet somehow, they're playing softer than expected, getting blown off the ball, and failing to make any kind of consistent impact at the line of scrimmage. And the frustrating part is, there's talent here, but something's clearly broken in the way it's being deployed. Let's go back to Anthony Weaver again. He's been vocal, he's been honest, and now he's hinting at bigger shifts in strategy. One of the more interesting things he said this week was about the potential increase in run blitzing. That's right. Not just the traditional blitz packages targeting quarterbacks, but intentional run blitzes to try and blow up plays behind the line of scrimmage. That's a clear sign that even the coaches realize the status quo isn't working. They're not getting penetration with their base 4. They're not winning one-on-ones consistently. So now, the idea is to send 5 or 6 bodies up front, not to get sacks, but simply to clog lanes and disrupt timing. It's a bit of a desperation move, but maybe it's exactly what this team needs. Because if you can't trust your D-line to win straight-up battles, you have to create chaos. Run blitzing opens up opportunities for negative plays. And if this team can't stop opponents from carving out 3-yard gains before contact, they need to start taking risks to get behind the line. Force a fumble, get a tackle for loss, make something happen. The risk, of course, is that if the blitz gets picked up, you're left vulnerable. But at this point, the safe approach is losing football. And Weaver knows it. But let's also be honest about where some of this frustration is rooted. It circles back to Chris Grier. This front office drafted Kenneth Grant in the first round. They followed it up by taking Jonas Savaiinaea in the second round. And what do both of these picks have in common after a month of football? They're both graded bottom 5 in their respective positions by PFF. That is unacceptable. It's not just a player issue. It's a talent evaluation issue. And for a team that's trying to win now, missing on early picks like this sets the entire roster back. Grier should have been held accountable a long time ago, but here we are again, watching high draft capital fail to produce. That falls squarely on the general manager. Now, speaking of roster decisions, the offensive line is also going through a minor shakeup. Cole Strange got the nod at right guard, and while his pass protection is still suspect, his performance in the run game was noticeably better than what we've seen from guys like Kean Smith and Daniel Brunskill. That's encouraging, but the real target is James Daniels. Remember, Daniels signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Dolphins this offseason, and we've barely seen him in uniform. He's eligible to return in week 6, and the Dolphins desperately need him to be that stabilizing force on the interior. Let's say he comes back healthy. That immediately upgrades your line. That's huge for Tua's protection, and even more critical for the running game, especially as the offense tries to stay balanced while the defense figures things out. Because here's the truth, if the defense can't hold up their end, this offense will need to be near perfect every single week. That's just not sustainable. So where do we go from here? Well, for one, Mike McDaniel and Anthony Weaver need to get aligned. You can feel the tension in how the defense is being managed versus what the expectations were. And you have to wonder how much leash Weaver actually has to make